Good morning, everybody. Let's hide that for now. Welcome to another episode of Krav and Coffee. I need a lot of coffee this morning. The quarantine life has gotten my sleep patterns all types of crazy. So, I mean, we could all hung out at 3 o'clock this morning when I was wide awake. So we'll give a couple people some time to sign on as I get myself together. I don't like this angle. Let's see here. Get my production studio set. All right. Let's see here. Good morning, Katie, Yee, Ernie, Kim, T. How's it going? If you guys are watching, drop me a line, throw me a wave, say what's up. If you have questions during this broadcast, as it were, drop them in the comments. I'd really be interested in a give and take. I know that this isn't the best platform for it. But hey, we have to start somewhere, right? And I say a lot. I need to work on that. Let's see. OT, you were up at 3. We could have hung out. All right. Cool. I'm gonna get started. So today we're going to be talking about the victim selection process, which sounds kind of scary, victim selection. But I'd like to turn it on its head. That's just kind of how I roll anyway. I don't want to think about what you can do as a victim. I want to think about what you can do as a survivor or I've never had to put myself in that situation winner. So I love you too, Walt. Thank you. Brian, Daria, hey. Lee, how are you? Good morning. All right. So I'm going to pop my PowerPoint up and move me over into the corner. There you go. So you can see some of what we are chatting about here. All right. Episode 5. Wow. Cool. All right. So the self-defense paradox. Training for the attack or arming yourself for some close range with some close range weapons. I call bullshit. I say use your strengths ahead of time to avoid it. I don't want to fight off a sociopath. I don't want to fight off an attacker who's already has the jump on me. Get the hell out of here. That's not how I define quality of life. And you really want to think about self-protection as quality of life. I want to be happy. I want to live. I want to walk through and wherever I walk and be confident in my security and make sure that I feel good. I don't want to be scared all the time. And I also don't want to be ever ready to fight off the boogeyman. That's super stressful. So I found a quote the other day, and it was actually regarding something that's not self-defense, but more about how communication is so important. So 2 big things with me, education and communication, way more important than knowing how to throw a punch. So here's some food for thought. It's really easy with the best of intentions to say the wrong thing or send the wrong message, and then more people die. So that's how I feel about the current state of women's self-protection. We're selling fantasies. and it's getting people killed. So it's a pretty dramatic statement on my part, but that's why I've been using this time during quarantine to get on here and talk to you guys about things that you can actually do to keep yourself safe. And fighting off an attacker by yourself when they've already decided that they're going to win is not the way to do it. Not if you have a choice in the matter. And education gives you choices. So let's talk about that. Let's educate ourselves. So CIVA, we talked about this. We touched on this last week in the timeline presentation. So CIVA is an acronym for the selection process. The criminal, the attacker, the predator, whatever name you want to give that person, selects the victim, isolates the victim, verbally tests the willingness of the victim, and then attacks the victim. So at each step of this process, you're had, right? So there's no, point where in this victim selection process do you hear the word winner or survivor. If a criminal begins this selection process and you meet all the check marks, there's a very high likelihood that you will be the victim. And I want you to avoid that. Why not, right? So this right here, the article, Attracting Assault Victims' Non-Verbal Cues. So this was an article written way back in 1981. That's the year I was born. And it's still being cited. That's how beneficial that information is. Criminals act a certain way due to the environment in which they were created in. So think about what causes someone to kind of have that type of mindset where at the end of the day, if it's you or them, they win. The criminals, they don't think the same way you do. They don't have the same thought process or reward, sequence that you have inside your head. Laws and rules they don't pay attention to because they have shit they need to do. And those rules and those laws, they just kind of get in the way. A great book that I've been reading talks about how the only thing they're really concerned about is getting killed. So they've already decided that they're going to do what they want to do. And then if the script changes where, the police are called and the police have their firearms drawn and they're kind of back against the wall and now they become the victim, they're like, "Ooh, all right, well, I'll do my time and then I'll come back to my job, which is being a criminal." So you have to keep that in mind, that the thought process is this thought process, this selection process is all to benefit the criminal, not you. If it's already started, you are a victim. So let's go into a little bit more depth about it. So selection, why me? So predators evaluate their targets before attacking. If you're attacked, the predator has determined that he will succeed without a heavy cost to himself. You have this idea of this criminal who's probably not the most intelligent, but then you see their success rate. They sure do win a lot. And the reason they win a lot is because they pick easy targets. If I'm the predator, I'm not going to pick Hey, sorry about that. I seem to have lost my connection. Let's see here. All right. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties. Let me get my info back up for you here. So I'm not sure exactly where I left off, but we're on the selection process. So we'll just go with, I might have gone off on a tangent anyway. So tends to happen. All right. Awesome. So selection. Why me? So you want to think, guys, that the predator has chosen you for a reason, and that's not, I'm not victim blaming, right? This isn't about what you've done wrong, because statistically speaking, just being a woman is a reason they're going to pick you. That's, and being a woman does not mean you're wrong. I think it's a wonderful thing. But you have to understand that you're already behind the 8 ball as a woman if you're in a situation where predators are looking to attack. So you want to think even animals. So animals will go to a target-rich environment. So target-rich means it's really easy, lots of people around. Let's say, for our purposes, remember, when shopping malls or, even a Walmart. Walmarts are still very populated. Lots of people around. Okay. And then they do something, or they start the selection process and they see who's left because the smartest, strongest, fastest will leave. And then they're left with easy pickings. So you want to really understand that you don't want to display things that make you look like an easy target. So one of the points that I want to make in the beginning is that there's been a lot of conversation about domestic violence spiking during COVID-19. And why is that? There's a couple different reasons why that's happening, and stay tuned because we will be doing a roundtable discussion about that with people who are way smarter than I am. But think of it in the most simplest of concepts. We're all required to stay at home and isolate. So the abuser knows that he has his victim where he wants her, as well as everyone else is out of the equation. So he doesn't have to do a whole lot of work to isolate the victim, which is one of the stages of the manipulation and the mental and emotional abuse prior to the physical abuse. So the woman in the domestic violence relationship has done nothing wrong, but the circumstances surrounding her have created a better situation for the abuser. We also have, so it's easier to be selected if you don't walk with confidence and purpose. So what does that mean? So when I do self-defense seminars, when they actually come in to my gym and we go through the physical and the mental side of things, which it's easier when you're moving, we always make sure that we reinforce the fact that you have to pick your partner. You don't want to sit and wait. So make eye contact, walk to the person that you want to train with. That's your partner. Don't wait. You make the selection. You be in control of the quality of your training. Confidence is huge. So if you walk around with your head held high at a normal gait pattern, which is a normal walking speed, making eye contact, being aware of things around you, you're not as easy as a target. And I know you've probably heard this over and over again, but it really is true. I went to PT school in North Philly. I went to Temple, and one of our instructors was also a police officer. And he saw me crossing the street at Broadon, Ontario. And he's like, "You look like you were ready to kill someone." And I'm like, "Oh, oops, sorry. I kind of regressed into that you should smile more idea. But at Broughton, Ontario, I was almost hit by a car when I had the right of way. So, I mean, I crossed that street like someone's trying to hit me. And my head is up and I'm looking around because you don't know where that car is going to come from. And he's like, no, 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 that's a good thing. He's like, you're a petite female in the middle of North Philly at dusk. You need to walk that way so you don't look like you're this, damsel in distress. So walking with confidence is key. And some people will say, oh, well, you have to watch what you wear when you go out in public because it'll make you seem like more of a target. Well, there's a couple sides to that coin. So if you're wearing something that makes you feel like you're amazing and your confidence level is through the roof, then that's a good thing. But you also have to be mindful of the fact that it's harder to run a race in high heels than it is in sneakers. Same thing, harder to run a race in a tight short skirt than, leggings. So you have to be aware that things that you wear may encumber your exit strategy. Plan for it. If you feel good, if you feel confident, girl, wear what you want to wear. But and I say this to, I teach a lot of teenagers, and I say to them, and it's a little inappropriate, but hey, it's honest. If you want to wear high heels and a short skirt, that makes you feel good. Wear what you want. But if things are to go down, be prepared to kick those shoes up and pull that skirt all the way up so you can run away. That's quality of life. That's self-protection. You don't have to make yourself small. You shouldn't make yourself small. If you make yourself small, you become an easier target. So live big, live you. Do what you need to do. Just have a plan. Be educated. Communicate your needs. See, communication, education, way better than fighting. We haven't even talked about throwing punches yet. Walking with a purpose. Know where you're going. Plan ahead of time. And ladies, we're good at this. Not many of us ever go anywhere without having a plan ahead of time, especially those of us who have children. You would never leave the house without something for your child to do, something for your child to eat, something for your child to drink. We have the natural, yes, Katie, take up space. Absolutely. We have the natural knack for preparing for where we're going to go. Even if you're not a mom, what do you have in your handbag? Like, we have things to prepare for the what ifs. So understanding where you're going, if you're going to a new location, say you live in the suburbs and you're applying for a job in the city, you want to know cross streets, you want to know the bus line, the subway line. If you're driving, you want to know where the parking garages are. You want to know exactly what floor your company is located. So it's kind of that ingrained multitasking, always be prepared part of a woman that we need to kind of level up on. Like that's really what's going to keep you safe. It's really important. And then unencumbered. If your hands are full of things, then you're not going to be able to fight back. Even if you know how to fight back, even if you don't know how to fight back, the outside predator is looking at you and being like, all right, well, high heels, she can't run very fast. Tight skirt, she can't run very fast. Hands full of her stuff. What's she doing with that stuff? Is the stuff kind of taking her vision away from everything that's around her? And you start to see how it's like, that might be easiest. So this is the spot, guys, where you have the best chance for survival. And it's really, honestly, just about understanding what the criminals are looking for. And it's common sense. We're gonna do a little thing at the end of this, and you'll see it's easy to do. It really is. Okay, let me keep going as I pontificate. Isolation. Remember, we had talked about this before, the difference between a process predator and a resource predator. So Rory Miller discusses this at length in Meditations on Violence. So don't take my word for it. You can look it up and get more information on it. But so a resource predator wants your resources. Give me your money, give me your car, I want your phone, that kind of thing. A process predator wants the process of you, the crime itself, attacking you, selecting you, isolating you, going through the ritual to get what they want. And then what they want could be anything. Could be murder, could be rape, could be both, could be torture. It's not, and I know those are really heavy things for 10:30 on a Sunday morning. But you have to understand that that's the severity of this. That's what you've been selected for. Don't allow yourself to get selected. Isolation allows that resource predator the time and the cloak of darkness, if you will, to do whatever they want to do. But sometimes when it's taught, you kind of talk about, if they take you to a secondary location, because that quiet isolation may not be the primary location. You might be at a party. You may, again, be at Walmart, and they can't do what they need to do to you in Walmart. But that doesn't mean that they're like, oh, there's a crowd of people. You look easy. I'm going to grab you. It's more than that. It could be, we're in Walmart. You're alone in the aisle. I come up and I start talking to you. I realize that you're as easy of a target as I thought you were. And we need to fight there first. And then I'm going to take you somewhere else. So it's not going to be like a big surprise. Or, I mean, it could be a big surprise, but be ready to have to fight at the isolation stage, not all the way down at the attack. Like this is where the fighting, the punching, the scratching, the screaming, the fighting for your life will start. It could also be that the primary location is the secondary location, because the primary location is so isolated that they don't have to move you anywhere. Home invasion. If someone comes into your home, all they have to deal with is you. You're isolated. So that's just as scary as being thrown in the back of a car and taken somewhere. And it's not like the predator doesn't want to spook you, because this is a process that they've been planning, right? They picked you on purpose. They have an end game in mind. And if they come in guns a-blazing, then you're like, whoa, and you see it coming and you can run away. That doesn't help them. They need you to go along with the plan. They need you to go along with the script that they have inside of their head. So it's funny. We were doing some jujitsu theory the other day with our instructor. And one of the things he said really struck me. And it's like the way one of the grabs, one of the positions that he puts himself in is not at a spot where the opponent feels like there's going to be anything that's going to happen. It's not threatening. He doesn't want to spook the opponent into thinking that something's going to happen. He wants to lull him into a sense of security. And then, boop, before you know it, you're rolled and he's now in the dominant position. And that's the predator mindset. You have the big boogeyman who's going to grab you in the parking lot and steal your stuff. But if you have the process predator who's selected you, he's got an end game in mind. And for example, Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy, notorious serial killer, did many things to convince women to go with him. He selected them, thought they were an easy target. Now he needed to isolate them. How was he going to do it? For one instance, he wore a sling on his arm, so it looked like he was injured, and he needed help putting his groceries into the back of his van. We're all nice people, right? We want to help the injured guy put his groceries in his van. That's how he lured women, his victims, into a sense of, I'm doing something good for something. I'm going to let my guard down, and then boom, knocked out back of the van. And then, you know what happens next. He also dressed up as a police officer to try to isolate one of his victims. Luckily, she fought back. She thought something was wrong. She fought back. She ended up surviving. So just because things go awry doesn't mean you can't change your mind and be like, no. I thought you needed help. I can tell you don't need help now. Fight for your life. All right. Verbal. So here's where the magic of distraction begins. Are they able to have a conversation with you to see if they can get your no to turn into a yes? How many of us have said no, seen the look on another person's face as if, we just crushed them, and then we're like, well, okay, yes. Just because someone's upset when you say no does not mean you were supposed to say yes. This is the conditioning that many of us have, to be polite, to be the fixer, to anticipate the needs. That is a social construct that's been created. And luckily that's changing now. The idea of that subservient woman is definitely being turned on its head, which is great. But we still, at least my age, women still have that idea that I'm a fixer. I can mediate this. I can make everything good again. So if what I'm saying is making you upset, then let me see if I can rephrase that to help you out. Diplomacy, communication is very important. However, not at the expense of you. You have to be able to articulate what you want, bring that to the conversation, and then work from a compromise from there. So practicing that with your family, with your loved ones, with your friends, in an environment where, maybe a work environment, where the outcome is not life or death. It's a good way to start to practice that. So when you're faced with that by a process predator, and they start, pressing the boundaries of your line in the sand, or your rules that you've set, then you can see how it's happening and be like, I've been here before. I've practiced this. You are A, breaking the rules that I set, so that's not cool. And then B, pushing my boundaries, and my boundaries are mine. So if you decided to cross my boundary, that's my line in the sand. And when my boundaries are crossed, I'm out. That doesn't happen overnight, especially when you've been conditioned to allow your boundaries to be easy breezy and to let, the good of the whole be your priority. So you have to watch that. This is where that manipulation can occur, that verbal back and forth. Jeff Thompson talks about the 4 Ds, and Ernie, I'm probably going to get these out of order, so don't be mad at me. You guys can look it up. So there's deception, dialogue. I should have written these down. I always forget the third one. The last one is destruction. So you have, Ernie, give me the 4 Ds. I'll come back to that. So deceit and deception, I feel like they kind of go hand in hand. So deceit, deception, dialogue, and then destruction. Those are tools that the predator uses against you. And believe what you see, guys. You're going to want to be like, oh, but you want to see yourself in the attacker, and they're not like you. How many of us, although this is going to be, I'm going to kind of go back on what I'm saying because you guys are going to have a mission should you accept it at the end of this talk. But how many of us go out and try to select someone to destroy? There may be psychopaths among us, but in general, normal human behavior is not to get the one up, to win and destroy. It's to kind of lend a helping hand, to be there to help. And when you have a criminal who's decided that you're going to be their victim, there's no normal thought process there. It's all very twisted. So don't give them the benefit of the doubt. Don't let them lull you into this sense of security of, well, I promise I won't hurt you. Really? You do? I don't know about that. That doesn't seem to sit well. So watch for those promises. Watch for no's that are just been thrown and disregarded, because that's the point where they're getting ready to strike. Because it's like, you look like an easy target. Come here. Let's talk. And then they go through this interview process and they're like, I was right. And then they attack. So there we go. Attack. So the honest citizen pitted against the predator is an unequal contest. The predator is professional and we're amateurs. Even if we train, we haven't truly trained to the point of the criminal who is 280, 6'5", on PCP with a knife, bent on your destruction. We don't train that scenario because it's almost impossible. It's so hard to simulate that sort of aggression while we're learning self-defense. We take self-defense classes and we take a self-defense curriculum or a combat curriculum, whatever you want to call it, and we teach it in stages. And even the most, the strongest, biggest, toughest person, if you've been selected as the victim, guess what? You don't look so big and you don't look so strong. You have to think about what you can do on your worst day. So I'm lucky to be surrounded by some of the, in my opinion, smartest instructors in the self-protection world. And that's what the common theme is, especially from, Ernie, who is my head instructor as well as my husband. He's like, I don't care what you can do when you're feeling great. What can you do when you're feeling like crap? And that's when you'll be attacked. Like, you have to really get that thought process going that you will be attacked when you look like you're an easy win. And if that were to be the case, you have to understand that there's no negotiating. You're not talking them down at this point. There's not an easy out. At this point, you are fighting to win. You're cheating to win. Anything you can to do to survive this attack. That's what you have to bring to this part of the equation. And it's not easy. And the attacker will always be active unless you make them unactive. Is that a word? Unactive? Which puts a lot on you. So you can either decide that your quality of life can begin during the selection process, or your quality of life can begin during the attack process. How much injury are you going to have to inflict on this person? And is it going to work? And if it does work, are you able to articulate it? Because there is legal repercussions here. We kind of touched on that last time in Timeline. And I say this and I teach this, and I want to put this out on the table, because if all you think about when it comes to self-protection is fighting, that's such a small portion of it. Or even if it's beyond that, I have a self-defense tool, whether it be a Kubotan or a tactical flashlight or mace or my keys in my hand or a firearm. Those things fail. Those weapons may not work. Or you might not have them readily available. If you carry a firearm, where is it? If you carry an OC spray and you spray it at your attacker and you miss, what now? Are you prepared to go hands-on with someone who is ready to destroy you? Because that's what they do. That's their job. That's a really hard scenario to survive and win. And if that is the case, you had better be training that mindset, that physicality every day. Every day. It's one thing to take a punch. It's another thing to make a punch actually count when you have to throw it. Have you trained that? Do you understand how to put your entire body behind that strike? Do you know what you're striking? That's a lifelong process. Same thing. If your self-defense strategy is a firearm, same thing. How many guns do you carry? Will you need more than one? How much ammunition do you carry? Can you draw? How do you carry your weapon? Is there one in the chamber? Do you have to rack it first? Where in the timeline of the attack are you? If you have a weapon that's used for distance and that person's right up on you, is that weapon still effective? There's so many things you need to work out. So you have the choice. You're more than welcome to train yourself for the attack. Be like, come on, go ahead, choke me. I know the defense to this one. Come get me. You can do that if you'd like. What I'm saying is, for me, for my quality of life, and what I like to at least give the people the option to know that they could do this, is to go all the way back to the beginning with the selection process and just be aware of what the predators are looking for. So with that being said, how to plan. Get rid of the victim mindset. Don't wait to be attacked and then have to fight out of that. Think about pre-fight indicators. What do people look like when they're up to no good? You're not judging them. You're not being a bitch. You're not being, a Karen, which is almost worse than being a bitch now. You are identifying something within your surroundings that doesn't sit well with you. Do something about it. You need to think like an attacker. So your next week self-defense class, lesson, whatever you want to call it, I want you guys, when you go out, look at who's around you and select your victim. Okay? I don't want you to attack them. I don't want you to turn into a sociopath, but I want you to look around and be like, yeah, I could take that person over there. They wouldn't even see me coming. Or while if you're going into work and you're waiting at the train station, look around. Where could you get away with the most trouble? Is there a dark corner? Is there a bathroom that locks? Is there a spot that is kind of like a blind corner? What time are you at the train station? Are you there with one other person? Are you there with a crowd of people? If you have to go to Walmart or if you have to go to the supermarket, you'll see some differences. People go into that supermarket with their list and it's all set up. It's not like, well, I need something from this side of the store and that side of the store and this. It's like, all right, I know I walk into the produce section. I'm going to get all my produce and I'm going to get my cheeses and I'm going to get my bread and then I'm going to get my meat and then I'm going to get my dairy. I'm going to grab my popcorn on the way out and I'm in line. There are people that are that focused on what they need to do. They're not the person you're going to attack. They have a plan. They know what's going on. They know where they need to be, what they need to get. And when something breaks that sequence, they're like, what? I got things to do. I can't spend 2 hours at the supermarket. All right. So look for the person that's just kind of lollygagging around. And that would be the easier victim. If that makes sense. So find a way to let yourself think like the attacker and not let that mess with your, again, quality of life. This is a lesson in thought process, because if you're in that victim mindset, then you're just waiting for someone to attack you. Think like the attacker. Don't wait to find the vulnerabilities of where you are until you're in that spot behind the 8 ball. Because if you can figure out what the attacker would do, then you can plan for it. All right, so I had a couple comments here. So Sarah, honestly, being out with my children, because there's 4 of them and 1 of me, they are so young, they keep my hands full. I feel most vulnerable and most vigilant when out with them alone, which is a majority of the time. Yeah. Yep. So that's a good thing, right? So you're very aware when you're out with your kids because you have to be. So good. I have I was working again with the Domestic Violence Center in Chester County, and I had a woman say to me, my husband, when he decides to abuse me, my son leeches onto me. I can't get him off. He's attached. What am I supposed to do? How do I defend myself and keep him safe? I can't put him down. I don't have the ability to be like, all right, go hide behind the couch, because he needs to be with me. He gets so afraid and he freezes, and the freeze response is on me. And I wasn't really sure how to answer that. I hadn't learned that through any of my curriculum training. So the best that I could do is problem solve through it and be like, when we learn weapon retention and weapon deployment, if you wear your firearm on the right side, you blade your right side back and you have your left hand forward, and you protect that firearm, you retain that firearm until you're able to deploy it. So you can strike with this front hand, you can keep distance with this front hand, and besides changing the position of your body, you also, now that escalation of force has gone through the roof. So if a criminal decides that they want to go after a law enforcement officer's weapon, things have escalated big time. and the law enforcement officer has a higher level of attention, and the force, the amount of force that they use has now escalated. So same thing, Sarah. If you're with your kids and someone has decided to approach you, that escalation happens fast, because you need to retain those children until there's a safe distance to deploy them. So deploying a firearm, you're deploying it for use. Deploying your children could be like, oh, I see someone over there, whether it be a police officer, another mom, an employee of a store, something where you can talk to your kids and be like, go there, go for help. And then you kind of put yourself between them and what's, the circumstance that's going on. But I think that's a big part of women's self-protection, is having the conversation about how do you do this with your children. So not every woman is a mom, but there's a big group of us. And as a mom, like that mama bear instinct, that's pretty significant. Even when you're teaching self-defense and you're telling these women, like, you have to fight back, and you can see the like in their faces, like, I don't know how I feel about that. As soon as you say, what would you do if they were coming after your kids? Then it's like, oh, I'll kill them. There's no hesitation. Someone comes after my kids, done. So I think that's an important dynamic that needs to be talked about as you teach women as a demographic, knowing that you have to preface that with, not every woman has kids, but we need to talk about it for the people who have kids, and then kind of build your lesson plan from there. Let me see. T said, I teach in my workshop that they have an objective and a deadline. I don't know if I understand that. Let me see. So T, I'm not exactly sure I understand what you mean. I do know. So for those of you, I'll introduce T. And if you hear that rustling around in the background, that's my dog. Every time we go live, he's like, hey, I want to talk to everyone on Facebook land. So T is, she works, I don't know who you work for, but you, Baron, thank you, sir, works with self-defense tools. And T kind of understands that it's more than just the tool, it's the situational awareness. So I'm thinking that she's talking about kind of putting it into a larger timeline than just here's a self-defense tool. Good luck. Pat you on the back. So Baron, good grief, man. I'm almost done. So an objective and a deadline, but I can't. Sorry, T. Let me know. Oh, yes, predators have a job. That was a typo. Got you. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so another pearl of wisdom from my jiu-jitsu instructor, who was also a police officer in Baltimore. He was, working with a criminal. He was in uniform police officer, and hand-to-hand confrontation started. He was able to break the orbital. He was able to break his arm. He was able to break his wrist. And the guy was still coming at him. The only way he was able to succeed was to choke him out, which is a felony, right? And police officers aren't allowed to do that strangulation. But because of the timeline, because of everything that he had done beforehand that turned out not to work, because you can't assume that it's going to work, he had to do what he had to do to survive. He was prepared for that. He was prepared as a law enforcement officer to articulate and document how everything went down. He was prepared as a accomplished martial artist. He was prepared as an individual who's decided that his life was worth more than, giving in. So there's a lot that could happen. So you don't want to let the predators do their job. You gotta cut it off at the top. So Paul from Canada, how are you? Are these shows being uploaded to the KMU online training site? Actually, not currently. These shows are on my page. So you can go to Anne LaGrady Kirk, DPT, and I put all of the Krav and coffees there, articles, tips. I'm working on some other things for the future, seeing how virtual learning is going to be the way we do things for a while. So here we are. Let me make sure I didn't skip anything else. Good. So if you guys have any other questions, let me know. But so self-defense, self-protection, learning how to fight is an important thing, mainly because of the intelligence you gain from it. I don't want to come to blows with anyone. Ooh, let me see here. Let's see. So Jana, as Quinn has gotten older, she has transformed into a partner in situational awareness. If we find ourselves in uncomfortable situations, she moves behind and to my left and hangs onto me, and her job is to basically look out. I dragged her to my back pocket so many times as a toddler. She walks and in stores has become automatic. I've seen her do the same thing to her toddler cousin on vacation. Yes. Communication and education. Don't be afraid to talk to your kids about being safe. Izzy and I have conversations about it all the time. And she understands that violence is a real thing. She also understands that self-protection is something that she can do. It's not out of her reach. And so I guess it was last week sometime, we had walked out of my mom's house, and there was a guy walking up the street. My mom lives in a nice area. It's in the city, but it's a nice area. And he was so it was a warm day. I was in a tank top and, yoga pants, quarantine gear, quarantine uniform, and flip-flops. And he was in a big jacket, heavy, like winter jacket with his hood up. And he was like moving like he was talking to someone. And I'm like, he's either singing to himself and doesn't realize that there are other people around, or he doesn't care, or maybe he's got a Bluetooth in. So I walk out and I see him acting odd. I wouldn't say erratic yet, but there was something wrong. And, it's me, my mom, and my kid. So I'm the point person there. And he stops right at my car. He's on the sidewalk and he stops right in front of my car, and he turns around and he lifts his arms like this. And I'm like, yo, you okay? And he's like, I don't even think he knew I was there. And he's like, oh yeah, I'm just waiting for my friend. He's walking slow. And I look back and he's got another guy who's pulling like this wagon with blankets on it. It was not normal by any means. And I'm like, okay. And I keep walking. I don't cringe down. I don't look away, but I don't engage either. And I walk to my car, keeping an eye on both of the people. And, they're just being odd, and they're being odd in their own little world. And they just keep moving up the street. So Izzy got in the car, but she got in the car on the side of the sidewalk because she knows that she shouldn't walk into the street to get into the car. So I was like, because if something were to happen, now there's a car between this weirdo, and I say that not judgingly, and my kid. So that, I mean, my heart stopped. And I didn't get in. I'm just looking, because if I had to like Dukes of Hazzard it over the top of my car, I was going to have to. So she gets in, they keep walking, no problem. Now, that's a teachable moment for me with Izzy. And we talked about it. And I'm like, listen, how did that situation make you feel? And she's like, that was really weird. And I'm like, what about it was weird? So I had her start articulating what made her feel weird, so that when she feels that again, it has a name. It's not just like, oh, something's off. Maybe I should listen to my gut. Maybe I shouldn't. It's like, oh, something was odd. He was acting inappropriately. He was dressed inappropriately. He was with a guy who had inappropriate stuff with him. Like, it was just very out of the ordinary. And it made me feel uncomfortable. I'm like, yes, good. Now, let's go through why those things make you uncomfortable and what you can look for, so that she's not memorizing like, all right, shady looking dude in a big coat equals danger. No, because danger doesn't always look like shady looking dude in a winter coat, right? It can be a normal person that can still give her the heebie-jeebies, and she needs to identify like, wait a second, what behavior, not what does he look like, but what behavior is making me uncomfortable? And then we worked through that. And then I'm like, next time, because I told her, I'm like, Izzy, I was very uncomfortable as well. I said, I would have felt better with you staying with me, getting in the car on my side. I know. And I didn't want her to, no victim blaming. Like, I didn't want to be like, you were wrong. You got in on the wrong side of the car. I wanted her to know that what she did was fine. However, next time, that rule of always getting in on the sidewalk side because there are cars in the street side is a rule that she can break if she feels uncomfortable. I don't want her running out in the traffic, but she could walk around the side of the car and get in with me, when normally I would say get in on the sidewalk side because there's cars over here. So she's learning how to weigh her odds to keep herself safe without worrying about what other people think of her, and without worrying about what rules she's breaking. So besides being polite, I was also very conditioned into following rules. So, which is good. You know, there are some rules that need to be followed. But you can break a rule if you need to feel safe. So it's not just communication and education for us as women. It's communication and education to those of us within our circle. You have to be able to talk to each other, have a plan. And that kind of even goes into third-party protection when we do that kind of stuff in our Krav classes, when it's not just you. There's lots to think about when it's not just you. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me today to talk about the victim selection process. I do put it to you to go and think like the criminal, if you can, as much as you can. Don't act on it, but look and see who you would identify as a victim around you, and make sure that you don't display those types of signals. Enjoy your quality of life in the selection process all the way at the beginning, where you're like, I'm not going to let you select me, because that's that's when you have the control, the most amount of control is at that point, because once you've been selected, yeah, things get much harder exponentially. So go out, think like the attacker, improve your awareness, and enjoy the rest of your week. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to reach out. You can reach me, you can private message me through Facebook. I also have a website you can check out, principalmovement.com. You can email me, Ann at principalmovement.com. And as Paul had pointed out, I am the director of women's self-protection for Krav Maga Universal. So you can reach me through kravuniversal.com as well. All right. If you're watching this as a replay and you have questions or concerns, go ahead and throw them in the comments. I look back to see if there's anything in there. I appreciate you all saying hi and listening. And anytime, let's see, there were a couple self-protection colleagues who had signed on. I am open for feedback. I'm also open for discussion. If you have a different thought on it and want to do this with me, let's chit chat. And there's already some stuff in the works for that. Anywho, so thank you guys. Thank you. Enjoy your day and stay safe. See you next week.